Turn the volume up on Jim Graham.
Awesome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Let's get people in.
I'm saying hello from OER24.
Cork.
Did you all karaoke last night?
No,
No.
sadly not.
But there was singing. There was definitely singing. Shahira was singing, and Tom and Geroyd were singing. So there was traditional Irish music. And for some of us, this was a rather late night. Some of us made it to bed early.
So at Reclaim Open in June, Rajiv spoke there. And so we had Tim set up Reclaim Arcade to be this really kind of cool karaoke. Freaking Rajiv did several numbers where he had a chair and was dancing around the chair. I thought like extra dancers were going to come out. Like that guy was insanely talented. And we ended the night doing George Michael's Freedom. And I think I joked to someone like it was probably the highlight of 2023 was everyone was on the dance floor saying freedom. You know, it was literally outlandishly good karaoke, and that guy is ridiculously talented. I had no idea. Like he had the numbers down, he was dancing. You know, his charisma is obviously already amazing, but then he's a ridiculously good dancer. Wow, that was something.
Well, we have to say we didn't trump that, that's for sure, but we did have a lot of fun. And what we thought we would do is like everybody here is in various stages of hungry and wanting to go for lunch. So we're going to see in order of who wants to go first. They can share their highlights and like chat a little bit about the conference. And then as we dwindle, as people go over to lunch, Meredith and I will stay here and share some more highlights. So people in the room, who's the most hungry? Who has to be off first?
I have to go to a GoGN webinar.
Okay.
Hi, Jim. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
Hi, Martin.
Your highlight from your conference?
I'll go with the keynotes. I think it's been great. I know that's often an easy one to do, but I think, you know, I've seen Rajiv speak before, and I've seen Catherine and Laura speak before, but they obviously created new keynotes. They weren't like, you know, people just do the same old stick. And it's really resonated with everybody, I think, and there are lots of themes to pick up then, I think, in lots of other talks. I think that's what you really want from a keynote. You know? So they were great. Rajiv did this really cool thing where he had recorded himself drawing, like annotating and writing about his own keynote as he did it. And it apparently was recorded on Tom's dining table, or dinner table, with just like an iPhone on a piece of wood strapped to a piece of wood above it. And it looked really cool, like really sort of cool. Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I heard 100 years of ed tech was pretty good too.
The never-ending project.
He'll still be blogging.
Yeah.
Zombie blogger.
Well, if anybody listening to the stream hasn't seen the keynotes, they are live on YouTube. So definitely check out Rajiv's talk. So, Martin, if you need to run off to another webinar, right? Who is next for lunch? Eamon, is it you who has to go next?
Yeah. I'd say I'm really enjoyed the conference so far. I guess, yeah, same as Martin. I really enjoyed Rajiv's talk, and same with Catherine and Laura today. A really good night last night, just catching up with a lot of old friends and meeting some new people, and great to see lots of kind of younger people here and lots of undergraduate students and graduate students presenting on their work, and kind of, you know, Martin's shuffling off into the distance. You know, there's new people coming up to take his crown. I'm brave saying that now he's gone. You know, he'll be back in. I'm like, oh, Professor Waller.
Put down the spears.
So that's it. Right. Good luck, Jim. Take care.
Bye, Eamon.
Oh, awesome. Leo, do you want to jump in next? You're part of the GoGN delegation this year.
I'm actually not here as part of GoGN, although I'm always part of GoGN. So just to kind of here under my own steam, though. But yeah, so for me, this conference has been one that it's like an unmissable event of the year for the last few years, and I always love coming to it, and I always love when it's in a beautiful, charming place like Cork. And the keynotes were fantastic. I think all of those people are, I have enormous respect for their work and love them. And I really liked in Catherine and Laura's one, the way they just kind of posed the problems to us and said, this is the kind of shit that we need to be dealing with. And they didn't pretend that there's going to be simple solutions to any of it. And I thought that was, kind of an honest space, and also kind of a call for us to think about, where are we and how can we work together, and how can we work with others who don't necessarily understand all this stuff that we talk about, but we could actually be working with other people who are trying to change the world in useful ways. So I really like that. But yeah, I guess the highlight overall has just been seeing all the beautiful people and hanging out with them.
So Leo, one of the things I saw when I think Meredith took a picture, or Marin took a picture, and we have a Slack channel. And one of the things they said, Catherine and Laura, in their keynote that was interesting, that things that they didn't see coming, like, AI and the enclosure of open. And I thought that was super interesting, like, particularly for me, the enclosure of open, like the fact that we shared it in Slack, it happened on Discord, right? Like all of these kind of small but very significant moves away from the open web. Yeah, so I like that. Even just, I saw one slide and I was already fascinated by that talk.
I'm glad you saw that slide, because I was trying to take a picture of it, but then they just moved to the next one.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, absolutely. I really liked your GASTA presentation yesterday, and like how it was the fast pace, but the way that you kind of ended it is like, it's not like libraries and open is ever closed. Like it's always still ongoing. And I just thought that was really cool how you kind of, in a Tom Farrell fashion.
Time, so then we were like, well, let's just, have a, say that we intended to.
Yeah.
Alan's got a closing Gusta coming up today. So are you ready for it?
Yeah, well, I have a bit on that, but first of all, like the flavor of OER, I mean, I haven't been since 2018, but it was always, somehow it was the magic sauce was the people that are here. And the thing I've enjoyed, like some of others have said, like I've gotten to, I went to sessions where I didn't know the presenters. Yeah, I could go to my friend's session. I went to my friend's session. I think it's a real opportunity to listen to the work of people and institutions that you don't really know much about. So my mind's going there. And yes, I'm doing a GASTA, and this is my coach. She gave me a pep talk. She showed me your video, Jim. And so I think, I mean, it's fun, but I thought they were kind of quiet yesterday.
Yeah.
Like everybody, like they made it close to time, but yeah, the way Leo's ended was good. And Kathy tried to get in front of Tom at the end, but I'm trying something really disruptive, Jim.
I'm not surprised.
It's going to be really weird, but it kind of fits in this thing that's going on.
Anarchy is one of the themes.
I mean, that comment about the Slack and this thing that people came up and saying, like, where do we go after Twitter, and this whole thing, and people are putting their affiliations and their Blue Sky and their Mastodon and their everything, and all the things happening in the Slacks, and that's not changing. But I'll give you a sneak preview. There's a T-shirt.
Oh, wow. Okay, are we needing to zoom in here?
That's
And the funny thing is, my work colleagues are not going to understand a bit of what I'm talking about, but my friends will.
Are you gonna have people behind you being like, "Sha, boom, sha, boom, sha"? You should.
Well, I've never done this. I'm going to do spoken poetry.
I know. It's awesome.
And I submitted my abstract as a poem, and I thought they're gonna just throw this out.
That's awesome.
But yes, but no, your video was a very good influence because Anne says what you wanted, Emery, sorry, really said, see how nervous I am. that you can aim to like not get cut off because I didn't get gusted, but I think it's more fun to blow it up.
I think the challenge I set you when we were talking about it was, you've got a choice. Three choices. You can finish on time and not get Farrellied. You can go over and get Farrellied, or the third choice is you can fuck with Tom Farrelly.
Yeah, that's the funniest.
Nobody has that in mind. So
I'm gonna attempt it. I have something up my sleeve.
one could start with that as a design decision from the get-go.
If it works, Emery gets all the credit.
No. And it was interesting. I saw another Gaster yesterday tried to do similar. Laurie Phipps and Donna Langcliffe had the audience. They were at the end of their piece. They tried to get the audience to vote on something. So they tried to take the audience voice at the point that Tom would have come in and got the audience to chant. And so there was that little bit of, they come with the same kind of design decision as well. How can we play with Tom in this as well as play with the board?
And Tom is he's on his home turf, right?
Yeah.
So he might have to be a little bit more controlled, so you can even take.
No.
It doesn't seem to make a difference.
I don't know that that's Tom's mode.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. I think my highlight here, I mean, the keynotes have been amazing. Laura and Catherine this morning was particularly special because I don't get to see those two people in the same place and the same time. And we talk a lot, but we never are in the same place. And that's, I had the experience at Reclaim Open of meeting somebody I've collaborated with for many years, Laura Gibbs, and seeing her in person. Today, or the last couple of days, I met Shahira for the first time in person. Gave her a hug.
Yeah.
And also one of my board members from Apereo, Inga, was randomly here. We didn't know either of us were going to be here. And so again, somebody I've worked with for nearly 6 years now and never actually met face to face. So everything everybody's been saying about community and seeing people again, but seeing people beyond the pandemic that I've only ever networked with across time and space and getting to see them for reals and give them a hug. And that's been super, super special.
Isn't Laura Gibbs amazing?
Laura Gibbs is amazing.
Gosh, I adore her.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if anybody else wants to go for lunch, you are welcome. I think Meredith and I are going to stay here and chat a little bit more with you, Jim, and share some more highlights from OER. But we also appreciate that you've already given up half an hour of the hour.
Can I say one other pleasure?
Yeah, please.
I've
You can stay as long
One
as you
other
want.
pleasure
Yeah.
I've had is that for the first time at an OER conference, we got to hang out with Maren.
Yay!
Exactly.
Maren is not somewhere stressed out, running around.
That's the face of happiness.
I know.
I don't have to worry about it.
I've been to a conference.
So Leo, one question for you, Leo, before you go.
You take care.
Leo, is Javiera there?
At the conference?
Yeah.
Yes, she is. Yeah, we presented yesterday. Actually, she presented in the same room as us. So yes. Whoop, sorry, Jim. These
chairs are
yeah,
loud.
they are very loud. Every time you get up, the chair's like clunk. So yeah, Javiera is here, isn't she? Yeah, she presented
She's great.
yesterday. She did a fantastic presentation.
Yeah, I agree. She's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many good people just in that room behind you. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, everybody's gone for lunch now, because needs must, and this is kind of like a hallway chat. But maybe we can share some highlights.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a couple
do you
on the
wanna
top
jump
of my
in?
head.
Yeah.
Yesterday in our room, we had the first presentation, and then the rest. There were 4 in an hour, and no, that was afternoon session. Never mind. Afternoon sessions, but they did a RLR, like reusable learning resource that they're kind of bringing up here at MTU and then other universities in Ireland too. And it was about a cooking class, and they dedicated 1 week to recording the entire thing, but had a really minimal setup. I think like 2 cameras, but they were using an A10 Mini to kind of switch things around. And I was like, that technical side of like behind the scenes producing like really kind of brought me back to like Reclaim Open and how we've experimented with making the presentations live at the moment, and archiving kind of the work that we're continuing to do throughout the live streams of EdTech too. And it was really cool, like just how they built the whole thing. Working with the professors weren't necessarily technically inclined, but they worked with the instructional designer to bring in the course, and it was built in H5P, so all open too, which is super cool. And then just after Martin's talk today was a research study on data and like data literacy and agency with the students, and the documentary we were talking about too of like Don't Track Me, like that's literally what it's called, or Don't Track That or something like that. But that resource was super cool, and I think also kind of what we're focused on at Reclaim too with our security work that we've been working on, like just all of us being mindful of all of that too. That was really cool.
Yeah, I can only echo that. And the cooking project that you mentioned, Meredith, that was like a community college project. So, and similarly, Rob Lowe from DCU, who was giving that talk about the tracking and the students, again, that was built with resources that weren't native higher ed resources. And one of the things that's been really special about having OER here in Ireland is that, you know, Ireland is a relatively small country, and there were so many people coming because it was here. And so there are lots of people here who I don't think would have come to an OER conference had it been somewhere else. So community college folk, you know, community learning. And there were even school teachers here. And certainly the teachers we saw yesterday, the catering teachers, you know, they'd never presented on this at a conference before. So it was really fun to see, you know, reasonably seasoned presenters like Anne-Marie or, you know, Leo with kind of, you know, bags of research experience next to folk who were kind of really new to the open piece. So that was really inspiring.
It was cool to hear Eamon talk about the fact that, you know, there's a lot of new faces and a lot of young faces, and that's super cool. You know, you want open education to have a kind of a lifeline, right? You know, it would suck if it was just a bunch of grumbling like, well, back at Open Ed in 2007, you know, we used to do it that way. It's you know, because it's a different reality now. And I really like that from the slide I saw that you shared, Meredith, about Laura and Catherine's kind of taking stock of the changes and asking the community, can we keep up with this? Are we willing to change? Like, where are we going and what's important to us? That's some really important questions for a community to like open. I mean, I say open ed, or just a community of open educators, if you will.
Well, for me, one of the highlights was also that we were able to speak on the same day as kind of Reclaim Press was launching.
Yeah.
And actually, people got really excited about it. They were like, there is a beta, I can sign up for it, you know, and people were coming up to us at like coffee and at lunch, kind of asking about it. And I think there is a lot more interest now in kind of taking the domains of one's own concept and applying it to a research project or a whole team, and kind of, you know, scaling the kind of piece around that independent domain rather than being always part of the institution's domain. So we had a lot of fun with that as well. And yeah, we've shared slides and video and things online.
Yeah, I like I'm still reflective about it too, because I'm thinking back to our lunch hour with Josie over at BC Campus. Like we were talking about the younger group too. It's her first OER. Like shout out to Josie. Like that's super cool. And like seeing that perspective from she's not presenting, she's just a delegate, and seeing that perspective, I think this is definitely a very powerful one to be at. In that capacity too, like just the speakers. And I was struck by how many people from the MTU, the Munster Technological University group is presenting too, because I think Shane in the last session, Shane Cronin was also talking about a lot of the RLRs too. That was really cool.
I saw one of the things you shared, Meredith, from a presentation I think happened after yours, was there was a bunch of faculty who were getting basically grants, And one of the grants, one of the faculty was getting was, how do I use an open source suite of tools to, do teaching and learning? And obviously, that's a sweet spot for me. I really love that. But like just the fact that there were so many different projects looking at, and faculty are experimenting with that. And like the university is supporting them, and that relationship with a group of educational technologists, like that's a really cool thing to still see, because that's where the magic happens, right? Those projects where you don't know what's going to come of it.
Actually, Jim, that's interesting that you pick up on that, because that was one of the questions that came up. So at the conference, there's always 4 15-minute sessions in a block, and then there's a joint Q&A. And in our Q&A, something came up around, how do we build confidence for faculty to fail and to play and not necessarily expect success and kind of that pressure to be excellent in everything all of the time. And that's actually been one of the sort of ongoing pieces of conversations in the different sessions I've sat in, to really recognize that more. And we were able to kind of also share how, one of the sort of pieces that we bring to the table is that enough digital literacy and skills to be able to say, yes, we're failing and we're learning, and that's an okay thing to do. Sort of bring that a little bit of that sort of startup mentality into it, the kind of industry mentality into it. And many people in the conference were really kind of inspired by, going outside of that higher ed pressure to always just be excellent and always have the perfect success. So I think that I'm interested that you picked up on that. That was really fun.
So another question for you all, given you're on the ground there, was AI in hyperdrive at the conference? Was it kind of balanced? Like, is AI kind of taken over open ed? And what are there angles people that are interesting are coming at open ed with AI?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very practical about how they're approaching AI. I think Alan mentioned that, or not Alan, Martin mentioned that about 2022 is like the theme of EdTech was the AI emergence. And I genuinely think like no one's approached it as AI in general. I was joking. We were walking between sessions, and I saw this meme on Facebook as I'm scrolling on the way over here of like photographers taking AI and they're shaking hands, and it's like 4 images of all the hands just like completely AI messed up. They're not like actual physical hands. Like it's just the way that they've shifted. But I think we're all being very like hesitant, but also like really kind of thoughtful about how we approach using AI. And there was one more like little bit, but in our Slack channel, someone's signature in their email on a ticket said this email was not written using ChatGPT. And I thought that it was really funny that people are starting to use that in their email signatures to confirm that it is a human actually writing to you now instead of AI.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there is a couple of sessions on AI which we haven't been in. But Laura and Catherine mentioned it during their keynote this morning, and they went for a couple of angles, I think, like you were saying, very thoughtful, very critical. So they were saying, we need to be aware of the extractive labor involved in a lot of AI, and being, have an open eyes around how open educational resources and content can be abused by, for data scraping and to train AI. And also, one of the presentations that was just here in this room, Rob Lowe talked about, educating students around what happens if they put data into AI tools and how that's used and how that could be commercialized, and kind of helping them to understand what the value of their data is. But I think, as Meredith was saying, the mood of the conference is very much, I think Catherine had this beautiful phrase. She said, we need to take action. We need to take action now. And we need to decide how we want to meet this moment. And they were using the metaphor of open education is at a crossroads. It's not viable to not take action, to not have a view. In order to take action, you have to kind of call it out and say, here are the things I'm seeing that I can make a difference to, whether that's climate justice or social justice or other forms of kind of the social justice agenda. So it was really powerful, I think, the way that they addressed it. They made it seem very much like a possibility that you could take action in a meaningful way rather than just, being consumed by AI.
It's awesome. So I think I saw that Bonnie Stewart made a second. I mean, she's probably come to many, but is Bonnie Stewart there as well?
Yeah, Bonnie's here and brightening up the space with her smile. Like from
Yeah, she's
across
great.
the hall, you can see her beaming, and she is definitely, she's presented yesterday as well. She's brought a colleague as well from her institution in Windsor, and they were giving a couple of talks. And we also have Lorna Campbell from Scotland. She was here.
Lorna's the best.
On Open Scotland, and you'll remember, Jim, Keith Smythe from UHI from last year. So Keith and his team are here. So that's been really fantastic. And Meredith and I learned about a new national program here in Ireland called the N-Tutor program, which is headed up by Sharon Flynn, who is one of the trustees of OLT. And they actually launched a new open education white paper here in Ireland yesterday. So there was like a lot of really powerful kind of things being announced, lots of things happening from all across the globe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And someone already referenced it, Maren, but what is it like for you, having essentially run the OER conference, having adopted it as it was a kind of orphan looking for a home? So Alt took it in. You kind of took it and built it up to be, I think, probably the grooviest conference, that I would go to at any given time. It's such a fun time. There's so many good people. What is it like for you to come to it as a kind of post-alt employee, if you will? Has that been strange? Has that been cool?
Oh, that's a great question. I thought it was going to be really weird. I think I was a bit nervous before I set off on my journey. I was like, what is this going to be like? But actually, it's not been weird at all. I've been really enjoying it. And this morning, Old's current CEO, Carrie Pinney, gave me a shout out, and to Martin Weller as well, because we were the kind of people who were part of shepherding the OER conference into Old in 2015. And so it's been nearly 10 years now.
Yeah.
And it's just so wonderful to see how vibrant it is and how many people. There's over 200 people here in Cork. And it's just fantastic to see that the conference, with all the work we all did, and obviously you guys were part of the OER by domains, and the pandemic years of the conference. And, I think it was really on life support and we kept it kicking. And now it kind of feels like it's got a whole new lease of life. And it is absolutely, for me, like my favorite event. And I absolutely love being here. And just having a little bit of fun as well. Meredith and I have been doing sightseeing. We played tourists.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been exploring stationery stores and sandwich shops. We had sushi. So it's like being on holiday, Jim.
And Meredith, you've been, I'm going to see if I get this right. You tell me. You were at Bristol, which I think was 2018.
Yeah.
Galway, 19, 20.
Yeah.
You were at, but that was kind of that was the year where everything blew up. And then 21, that was the online. So what has this event that you're at now been in comparison to some of the previous events? I remember in 18 Bristol, that was an interesting event because David Wiley keynoted. And there was a lot of, that was a moment, talk about a crossroads. There was a lot of kind of, how would we say, dissonance in the crowd around some of that discussion and some of the politics of OER, which is real and it's a crossroads. So what has this been like in relationship to some of the other ones?
Yeah, this has definitely been really interesting because this is my first international conference since the pandemic. I love Reclaim Open. I don't count it because in the same way that you running OERs, we were running it. So I didn't really get to experience it from the perspective of a participant. And this one's been really cool to see because it's kind of in a little bit of layers in the crossroads aspect is that I was fresh out of college during the beginning, 2018, 2019 years. So I was still I was joking with my husband about this. I was a noob. I'll use the word noob for this one. Sphere of open education. And now in 2024, I don't feel that way. Like, I feel like I'm really starting to find the footing of where I want to go with it and what topics interest me of the sphere of open education, of like even the AI tools, and like even just talking about Reclaim. Like, I feel so much more confident about talking through Reclaim Press. Like, even our presentation, like I just feel so much better with it. Like, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't like, oh my goodness. Like, I think just having a couple presentations under my belt now with those, like, I think it's just a lot more confidence.
Yeah,
It's
that's cool.
For it.
Yeah, you rocked it. It was awesome. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't exaggerating last year. Like, last year was a super special conference for me. I mean, I think maybe because it was, like you said, post-pandemic, maybe because, great people were there, but just also, it was a time of, just getting out and getting back. And so it is a bummer not to be there, but I love that both of you are representing hardcore for the For Lifest brand ever. But yeah, I think that conference is the bee's knees. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I really appreciate like Marin's idea to bring in the back channel in Slack. Like, yes, it's in Slack, but we want to make sure that the whole team is like feels like they are participating too. Like, I think that's been really helpful.
It's been great.
In a mindset of like, oh, like you kind of get in the moment of you're there, and then I've been taking notes of like how to bring it back to everybody too, on like what kind of projects, and we're even thinking about like how we can incorporate the people we've met into like our live streams and community chats.
We have a whole list of people to follow up with, and we do actually have one very special greeting to deliver to the whole Reclaim team, because Meredith and I have been stretching towards the sky, hugging Brian Mathers very closely.
Oh yeah.
We are laden with Brian made stickers, not just from the Reclaim side of things, but also there are so many other artworks here that Brian has created. It's like every presentation you go to, it's like Brian Mathers. This is by Brian. The keynote, this is by Brian. So we've collected stuff for everybody, and we're going to ship it home and put it into envelopes and definitely spread a little bit of the joy. But Brian sends lots of love, and it's been fantastic to hang out with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, in fact, I mean, I tried to time the visual anthology you created, Marin, of Reclaim's 10 years of art with the idea of thinking a little bit about, we talked about if we were going to do it as a physical book, what would an introduction be like? And my idea was, I could say it's the Reclaim aesthetic, but in many ways it's the Mathers aesthetic. And I think the fact that it pervades all of the OER kind of, sessions, whether it's Eamon's, whether it's Martin's, whether it's GoGN, right? Or Reclaims, like there's a sense that he has captured some of the playfulness and joy and kind of, I think, aspirations of a community really well in his art. And I think it makes us as a community better by having that visual aesthetic. And so I wanted to time that idea of that Mathers aesthetic with the morning of OER24, because one of the things you start to realize when you go to these sessions is like, is that Brian Mathers? Like, did he create this? Oh my God.
Yeah, well, we've been sharing that blog post like around the hashtag as well, and people have been watching it, and like Brian was so thrilled to see it all come together. So I think there's definitely lots of sort of ripples of that, collection going out and that post going out. So it's nice how these things connect, and I'm really glad we were able to come here and have a bit of a hallway chat, because I do miss that kind of informal, that meticulous informality that Martin has been blogging about as well. Having that sort of conversation is really important.
Yeah, and I think like to the points you both made about the keynotes and this particular moment in OER, like if we are at a crossroads and if there are some real choices to be made and stuff, like there's a lot of different ways to approach that, right? And I think part of that is like, what are the arguments people make? Like, how do they make it not simply like a finger pointing, like you should be better, but like a really inviting, open kind of a sense of, trying to join a group who's has an idea of something powerful and new and building possibilities. So that's one of the things I really liked about working with Brian is I always felt like when working with him, it was like not only therapy, which we always joked about, but the idea of there was always a nice kind of turn of phrase or joke or playfulness, and it didn't make it any less serious or any less important. But it certainly made it more accessible for people so that they don't feel like, oh, this is this community that I am not, there's a kind of wall around it.
Yeah.
Rather, it's like there's an invitation to come in and help build something new or build something unique. And that for me was always been the most exciting part about the open education movement. And how we do that with whatever direction the community takes, and it doesn't have to be singular or monolithic. I like that he provides us a way of being playful with it.
Yeah, that's a really good thought. Actually, I hadn't seen it that way. I think we're going to get kicked out of our little hallway spot in just a minute because lunch is going to be over shortly. So I think
did you guys sacrifice lunch for this?
No, but there's such a big queue. Like by the time we get there, we might still get like 10 people in front of us. So we're all good.
You sacrifice lunch. That means you're for life.
For life.
All work.
No, this was fun. I really enjoyed this.
Me
and I'm
too.
glad we got to be able to bring you in spirit and virtually to talk through all that stuff.
Oh, that's one more thing I need to say.
Yeah.
So yesterday, Jim, during one of the talks, like we were talking, and someone from the back shouts, "For life!" really loud. The presentation, and everybody just erupts out of, and laughter. So you may have not been here in person, but the groom spirit is strong.
Yeah.
That's for
fun.
sure.
That's great. Well, you all's rules. Have fun. I guess this is the last day, huh?
Yes.
This is the last day. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like 2 days isn't enough.
Going home tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's been a long week.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, thank you again for inviting me in. It was great to talk.
Of course. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching and like and subscribe.
Hit that button. Smash that button.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.